loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past.
It's time for another conversation. Welcome to Make It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. And I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. Thanks to COVID, it has allowed me to be exposed or introduced to people scattered all over this world. And we have one such person this time around. And we're going to be talking with Kevin McCarney. I believe, where are you, Kevin?
Yes, Burbank, California.
Okay. In Burbank, California. Welcome, Kevin. We're going to be talking about what is the big brain, little brain concept and its implication on relationships. And that's actually the title of your book, because Kevin is an author. So tell us a little bit about your book, Kevin, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Thank you. All my life, I've been studying the way people respond or react to situations, sometimes to their benefit and sometimes to their detriment, myself included. We all have a big brain, which is that neocortex up here, that all the good, we know, all the stuff we know we should say, we know we should do. And then sometimes when we're under pressure, we don't access that part of the brain. We access the little brain, that little, they call it the reptilian brain, right? More primal, that when it just wants to say something because it feels good for the moment, but then it has a negative ripple effect sometimes. So I watched all my whole life and my family in work situations where when people were under pressure, they immediately they would use their little brain and just say something because they thought they had to say something. And so what I did is I studied so many different ways. How do we need, and I use the expression activated. Sometimes people get activated. I'm in the restaurant business. And so people come in to the restaurant and they get activated. And what I mean by that is I'm in the business of serving people with low blood sugar.
Okay.
Because they coming in physiologically, in their mind, they're starving. And we have to give them the food correctly and with the service correctly. And so they're not always 100% of themselves sometimes when they first come in. After they eat, they're fine. Right? Just like children or anything else. After they eat, everything is okay. Okay. That now they feel better. Physiologically, they're restored. But I watched this in the restaurant business. I watched this in youth sports where people that know better, but they say the wrong thing. They get upset and they think that, oh, I've got to say something because somebody says something about my team. And you get these rivalries turning into these enemies. And you get this back and forth where I broke it down to in a book where it's the big brain knows what to say. The little brain goes through that. But the most important thing in the chapter 5 of the book is finding neutral. Finding neutral, finding that space in the middle that where you don't have to say anything for a moment, where you can just take that moment and pivot. And I have a couple of tools in the book as to how to do that, because I got frustrated watching people, my family, brothers, sisters, get upset, say the wrong thing, and then have a whole mess to clean up because they got upset in the moment. In customer service, it happens all the time. You see it on the news media. People get upset and they say something they wish they hadn't said. And all of a sudden now they have to clean it up. And so I've been I have 2 daughters. And as I became a father, I realized I had to be so much better at communicating with my children than I had ever been in my entire life, because the ripple effect on my relationship with my daughters is powerful. And that the way I handled myself with them was powerful. And they taught me a lot of lessons on how to communicate and how to listen, because kids are truly great listeners. They're hearing everything that we say. More importantly, they're reading every tone that we use. And one of the things that I mentioned in the book is that when they're babies, they don't know what we're saying, but they know the tone we're using. And that tone becomes how they begin to read people. Oh, they don't know the vocabulary, but boy, do they know that tone when we say it in the wrong, like, don't do that, stop that, or, don't go out into the street. We get, energetic, and yet that tone, they never lose the ability to discern between the tone and the words, because they don't always match, and I think that throughout history, we've seen that.
Yeah. So you said a lot. So just we're gonna summarize it and then just say what the implications are. Then of course you'll then
Got it.
on relationships, and then you'll introduce us to some of the tools. So the big brain, so it's the big brain versus the little brain.
Yes.
And one is where you basically react.
Yes.
Yes. So
The
which
little
one
brain will
is where
react.
you're more reactive?
Yes. The big brain is more responsive. It'll give thought.
Okay. So one is reactive and one is responsive. That's it.
Yes.
Basically in a nutshell. Okay, good. So what then are the implications on relationships if it is that we're more quick to react rather than respond?
The biggest relationship, I think, the biggest difficulty there is that depending upon what's happening in our life, if we're stressed out, if we're having money problems, if we didn't get enough sleep, or I mentioned before, if we're hungry, and somebody, you walk in the door at the end of the day and they kind of attack you at the front door. Hey, wait, I gotta talk to you. Boom, boom, boom. It's like, whoa. It's like you just want to sort of push it. We want to react. That little brain wants to react. I walked into my house one night, really tired. I really just wanted to take it easy. I thought, about a 17-hour day. It was really crazy. I walk in and I thought I was just gonna be able to sit down and relax, take it easy. And there's 30 choir kids from my daughter's choir jumping up and down and singing at the top of their lungs. So I opened the door and I went, okay, what we got here, right? And that was a very big lesson for me, because I could have said, okay, what do we got here, right? Same exact words, but a completely different message.
Yes.
And so it taught me a lot about that. And so my daughters said, Daddy, thank you for not getting upset. I go, no, that's okay, because you're going to get surprised. People are going to do the wrong thing. They're going to say the wrong thing. I was able to hold back, and I used what I call your neutral words. And I give people a list of neutral words to use, but I was able to hold back and not overreact, because I'm the youngest of 5 boys, and then we had 2 girls. So I know what overreaction does. I know, I've seen it. And everybody feels they have a right to overreact. Oh, well, they said this, so I get to say this, and they go into that, oh, I have a right to do this. And it just creates an escalation of problems that eventually have to be solved. So from a communication standpoint, I really thought that if I could help people take that moment, that it's the same time frame, take that moment and ponder just for a split second. Know that if you're in a pressure situation, or somebody is yelling at you, or somebody's disrespecting you, take that moment and just tell your big brain to take over, because we know what the little brain wants to say. We know exactly how it's going to get out there, and it might feel good, right? But it's going to create a negative ripple effect, where if you take a moment, just a moment, and I think there's a great, I mentioned him in the book, a great neuroscientist from the 40s named Viktor Frankl. And Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space, we have a choice. And the book is about choosing. And every moment, no matter what you're going through, you still have a choice. I do not use the word triggered anywhere in the book on purpose, because I didn't want people to feel that they had an excuse. Oh, I'm triggered. I know. I listen. I feel that way. I know half this book really well, Noreen, really well. So I'm working on the other half.
Okay.
But it really comes down to trying to get people to understand that, we still have a choice. No matter what is going on, we still have a choice. Not easy. Listen, I have so many different things that have happened in my life where, if in the pressure of the moment, if I had made the wrong choice, I would either wouldn't be here, or I would have had a completely different life. And I think it happens with all of us in some ways. But the idea is that if you're under pressure, if something's happening, you still have a choice. And I think we in so many situations where Viktor Frankl survived 4 different concentration camps. There's a man who 4 different, Auschwitz, everything, the Birkenau, 4 different concentration camps. And he came up with this idea that between the time something happens or something is said to you and the time you react, you have a space to make a choice. And that the idea behind, in the book, I try to give people some tools to expand that space and make that space a little bit bigger and easier to navigate. Because if you can just take that moment, if you can just take that, and I use the word neutral because I feel like it's kind of the portal to the big brain, but the idea is just enough time to realize, okay, take your foot off the gas on your tongue and see if you can. Is there a better answer here? Is there a better way to phrase this? Is there a better outcome that we can accomplish by saying it differently? I think tone of voice is probably one of the most powerful things about communication, and to control your tone, even just to control your tone or to say what you want to say in a very soft tone, change the dynamic completely.
Big brain, little brain. Are you reacting or are you responding? We're going to take a short break while we get a word from our partners.
So, the whole idea of a branding strategy sounded so exotic and so fancy to me. But after having several conversations with Neon, I now have a clearer understanding. I am sure of what my identity is, what it is that I want people to see Noreen Daly as. Thanks, Neon. Thanks, Splint. Visit them at wearesplint.com.
For all your events such as educational forums, workshops, book launches, weddings, and more, contact Noreen Daly, the ultimate MC and event host. Visit noreendaly.com or follow her on Instagram at Noreen Daly Jam. Noreen Daly, creating long-lasting memories.
Are you looking for one-of-a-kind products customized to suit your needs? Then shop at Trending Things, the place where customization is always an option. From personalized gifts to apparel, accessories, drinkware, and home decor, you name it, we make it. Get your favorite designs on any item for party favors, weddings, graduations, or any special occasion, all at affordable prices. What are you waiting for? Visit our website at trendingthings.com to order your trendy item today. Trending Things, bringing creativity to the things you love.
Photography is an art, but more so, photography must come from the heart. Precious moments, priceless times. Take a pic and know it will turn out fine.
BMC Photography JA, beautiful moments captured. Let's go.
It's quite easy for us to react rather than respond. Let's find out about some tools to kind of just shift that mindset. So you're going to tell us some of the tools, but before we get to the tools, this whole idea of neutral words, give us some examples of some of the words that you classify as neutral words.
I use the word okay all the time. Okay, right? Because I'm also breathing out when I say that word. And I'm breathing out the anxiety that I might be feeling at the moment. So if I get surprised, it's like, okay, I walk into one of my businesses and all of a sudden there's a huge mess on the floor and somebody just dropped a bunch of stuff. Okay, what we got here? Because everybody's expecting to be yelled at or angry, but I don't want to give them that. I'm going to try to take the pressure off of them. So, okay, another one is well then, somebody disagrees with you in a political argument. Well then, okay, well that's one way to look at it. Or there's in the book I get many more examples, but I honestly believe we all truly have our own neutral word already. I think everybody has one that they use, when a friend of theirs says something that they don't like. There's a neutral word that we all have. We don't use it as a tool always. And so mine was okay. Well then, how already there's a list there, and I encourage people to make their own, so that they're not taking my words. They're taking something that they feel already, and they know they can use it. More importantly, in the right tone of voice, because if you say that out loud, you're sending a signal. You're sending a mnemonic signal to your brain. Okay, this is a moment where big brain's got to take over, because little brain's going to get me in trouble.
Yes.
You know, little brain's going to cause problems.
Yes. All right. So yes, somebody reads your book and you're saying, yes, you have your own neutral word, but you're basically telling people, if you don't have any, create them. And if you do have them, use them. Yes?
Yes,
All right.
correct.
So
exactly.
what then are some, because I know, and I remember reading the book, that some of the tools, tell us about some of the tools that we can basically utilize to improve our relationships.
And I think your neutral word is definitely a tool. Tone is definitely a tool. Tone is probably the most significant tool, because it's going to get you, it's going to take you to neutral just by tone of voice. It's going to mentally put you in neutral. So the tone, using the right tone is critical. I think there's other areas of the book that I talk about where slipping the punch in karate or judo, there is a concept called slipping the punch. And that is, somebody's coming at you full force, they're ready to jump and kick you. You just step out of the way and let them hit the wall. Then you're in a better position to respond. So from a verbal sense, slipping the punch is one of those things where somebody's screaming and yelling, you know, it just let it go. Not easy to do. You know, not easy to not take it personal. We had a lady come into one of my restaurants, ordered some enchiladas, and a friend ordered a salad. They sat down. We took the food over to them. 5 minutes later, the lady with the enchiladas comes back up, and in the loudest voice possible, right? It's only a small little restaurant, 50 people, slams the enchiladas on the counter as loud as she can be. These enchiladas are cold. It's so loud that everybody turned around and is looking at this. And the manager, to his credit, said, I'm so sorry. I'm going to make you some new ones right now. I'm going to bring them out personally. Please go have a seat and I'll bring him out. And he did. Brings him out, new enchiladas, steaming hot. 5 minutes later, same lady comes back up to the counter. Bam! You made these enchiladas cold again. So now this is escalating. And he looks at her, he says, wow. He says, my sincere apologies. Let me get you something else on the menu. Anything at all, and it's on me. Whatever you want. He says, well, fine, give me some of those taquito things. And he does. Gives her some taquitos, takes them over to her, apologizes. And 15 minutes later, he's got a line to the door, but he notices the lady's only taken one bite of the food. So he's starting to think, I got to get over there. I got to get over there. All of a sudden, he feels a hand on his arm. And it's the lady. And she says, thank you. And he looks, as everybody in the restaurant looks, and been perplexed. She says, thank you for not getting angry at me. She said, I just came from the hospital for my husband. It's not good news. I haven't slept in days. I haven't eaten. I didn't mean to take it out on you.
Wow.
And the whole restaurant melted. And the two of them talked to each other and they gave each other a hug and like, really sorry. And that was it. It was never about the enchiladas. In so many situations, it's not about the enchiladas. Okay. So many people have so much going on, and sometimes they will use a moment in a restaurant or in a retail spot to sort of let their anger to the surface or put out their frustration wherever they can. And the nice thing is that the customers came up afterward and told the manager, listen, we knew she was having some difficulty, but the way you handled her made us feel comfortable because you didn't let it escalate. And so she still comes in, the customers that many years later, they still come in and talk about that moment because it was really about not taking it personal. You made these enchiladas cold. everything, you could easily take this wrong. You could prove her wrong with a temperature gauge. That wasn't the issue. It had nothing to do with that moment. So sometimes in these extraneous moments where you've got all this stuff going on, it's not about that at all. It's about something else. Something else is bubbling to the surface. This is just where it's bubbling up. And so we train as much as we train our employees, and I train other people now. I've trained a lot of training sessions. Don't take it personal. It's not personal. For the most time, it's not personal. Sometimes it's where somebody, yes, they want to be angry, they want to be upset, they want that, but it's not personal. And if you take it personal, then you lose focus, and you get away from neutral, and it's little brain territory, because when you take it personal, little brain takes over. Little brain wants it, and it's that impulsive little brain that I put the reptilian brain from a communication standpoint is what I call the little brain. They use the expression fight or flight.
Yes.
That's okay. But I think fight or flight is just a beginning component of that conversation. There's neutral, which is in the middle, where you can choose how much you want to fight or stand or do something, or how much you want to maneuver away. But it's not running away, and it's not going into a fight. You have a chance to sort of take that moment and change the momentum for it if you can get into neutral.
I'm listening, and I'm thinking that is so applicable to so many different contexts, whether it is workplace, regardless of the type of workplace, whether it is in a social setting. So I'm hoping people are listening and watching, and they're thinking, I probably need to try that, because I'm just thinking, because in my other life, I'm an educator. And I think a lot of times, sometimes when students come to us and if we're not careful, we can react.
Yeah.
And really allow the situation to escalate. And when you really, probably step back and talk to the student, otherwise you recognize it really has nothing to do with that actual situation. It's probably just out of frustration. So I'm listening, and I'm saying
we're all human. We all have big brains. We all have little brains. We'll react and overreact sometimes. It's just finding. Listen, my book is pretty simply written. It could have been called "Duh," right? Because we all know this information. We all know this stuff. I'm just trying to make it easier for people to find it and the pressure of the moment when they need it. Because it's not anything brand new, but I'm trying to give it to where it's useful, trying to distill it into this simplicity of making it very useful, very easy to remember in the pressure of the moment, because that's when we need it the most. But, I really appreciate you having taken the time to read it, because listen, I didn't read my first book until I was 21, because very, very dyslexic, right? I couldn't read. But finally, I was convinced by and nurtured by somebody to read a book. I had to read a book. It was a big thing for me. The first book I read was The Hobbit. Right, that was the first book I read. Didn't read any books in high school. I faked my way around that. I guess I just couldn't read, and so, but I could get along with everybody, and I could read people rather than I could read text. And so I got much better at observing and all this stuff. And then I started reading books when I was about 21, and I read a lot more now. I'm much better. I've sort of pushed myself beyond this stuff, and to where I like reading now. Now it's like, okay, I like this stuff. And for the longest time, I would never read any fiction. I don't have time for fiction. I'm working. I have a business to run. And now my daughters have me reading fiction, because it's a nice release sometimes to read a fiction book. I didn't know.
As we're wrapping up, and to help people to retrain, because I think for a lot of us, it's easy to react rather than stop to respond.
Me too.
So if you had to condense it in, say, a 2 to 3 step process, what would that process be for us to just retrain our brains so we respond rather than react?
Yeah, I think that in every situation, practicing your neutral words and practicing it out loud so that you get really, athletes practice 95% of the time for the 5% of the time that they need the talent. So we sometimes don't practice our communication skills at all. Cause when I was 19, I knew how to talk. What else is there?
Yes.
But I think practicing the neutral word is critical. If you're a parent, and even in the business world, maintain control of your tone, because your tone will send a lot of messages one way or the other. And again, exactly the same words with a different tone have a completely different message, because the tone is the message. And we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes, and there's no expiration date on an apology. So could be 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you know what, I shouldn't have said that at that time. And just so that even if the person's not willing to accept it, you feel like, okay, I shouldn't have said that, and it's over for you. But I think that's something I see in the business world, where everybody's just trying to blame somebody else, somebody else. And if they make a mistake, they just try to run away from it. So accept responsibility and know that it's going to be part of your life. And every once in a while, it's going to be an apology, So I think people can get good at that.
Thank you so much for sharing, Kevin.
Thank you. Really appreciate the conversation.
Yes. This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Making it last is all I care to do. You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life won't live.